Hi, I'm Rochelle Tucker, Political Action Chair for the Rockingham County branch of NAACP, and I am here live in the lab with the Mix Network. Brothers and sisters, I greet you with the joy of Jesus in my soul and the energy that I have to talk about this most important aspect, and that is the 2024 general election that is coming up in just a few weeks. I'm here tonight to talk about the fact that it is extremely and critically important for us to participate in this election. We have folks on the ballot who are going to represent us all the way from the White House down to the schoolhouse here in Rockingham County. I'm here to try to get you to understand that we cannot afford to stay home from this election. Now, there are several things that have to happen in order for us to participate. One is that we must register. When we go to the polls, our names have to be on the books. And it is important for me to let you know that if you have not voted since, say, 2008 or maybe the last couple of presidential elections, your name has most likely been purged from the rolls of the Board of Elections. And therefore, you will need to register. Now, in order to register, all you need to do is reach out to me, or you can reach out to the Board of Elections, reach out to any minister in the area, reach out to about anybody, because we've put the word out that there is a demand for us, a demand for action for us to register. And so I've got forms. I ride around in my car. I've got forms with my committee members. Anybody can get you registered, and you need to do that before next Friday, October the 11th. However, there is another opportunity for you to register, and you can do that through the early voting. But I urge you to try to go ahead and let us get you registered before the 11th. All we need to do is get a little bit of information from you, your mailing address, birth date, last four of your social, and just a few other pieces of information. We'll get that information over to the Board of Elections. They'll get you officially registered. And then all you've got to do is wait for the time for you to go to the polls and vote. Now, when you go to the polls, it is extremely important for you to have your identification. Now, most of us drive. If we're over 18, most of us drive, and we have a license, a valid driver's license. Now, it's got to not be expired. It's got to be valid. So if yours is expired, make sure you try to go get your license renewed. But if you don't have a license, you can go to the Board of Elections office out in Wentworth, and they will make you an ID. And the only thing you need to do is present that ID when it's time for you to vote. Now, the courts passed the rule that voter ID is a state requirement for voting here in North Carolina. But let me remind you that if for some reason you do not have your ID when it's time to go vote, you can vote. Don't ever let anybody tell you that you cannot vote when you get to these polls. You can vote at that time what is called a provisional vote, which means that they will let you vote. They'll put your ballot in a separate stack, and then they will have to check out your credentials because you don't have your valid ID. You don't have where you are officially supposed to vote, or maybe information that validates that you live here in North Carolina. So all of that will have to be checked out, but you can vote. Now, let me tell you that you also need to make sure that you have, when you go register to vote, if you go doing early voting, you need to carry two things. One, you will need to have some kind of picture of yourself to show that you are who you say you are, and some kind of bill, or a water bill, a Duke Energy bill, phone bill, something that shows that you are indeed a resident of that particular house. That gives them the opportunity to know that you are a valid citizen here in Rockingham County. So make sure you have that information. At the end, I'll let you know other information that you can have to reach out to me in case there are questions, because I know all of this might go over your head, but I'm trying to put it out here as clearly as I can. This 2024 election, my brothers and my sisters, is probably the most critical one of our lifetime. I think when I talk about the elections, I say that probably every time I talk about an election. But for real, 2024 is going to be different from any other one that we have ever done before. Now, we start on the ballot with the folk who are in Washington. The federal elections are on our ballot this year. And we start with the office of president and vice president. Now, I'm not here to tell you who you vote for. All I'm telling you to do is make sure you research these folks who are standing in front of you telling you, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. There are folks who lie and who make up stuff. That is for real. Now, I can tell you that for sure. A lot of the things that you hear these candidates say is untrue. They may say a lot of things that they want to say just to get you to vote for them. But do not believe everything that you hear. And we have another little weapon that is being used now. Let me make sure you understand that. We have what is called now this AI, artificial intelligence. They have the capability to have my face talking and saying stuff that those of you who know me know I would never say those things. So there is an opportunity, y'all, for people to make stuff up and make you believe it just because I'm saying it, or because somebody that you trust or some face that you've seen before might be saying that, and you say, oh yeah, so-and-so is saying that. I'm going to believe that, and I'm going to vote for them. Don't believe everything that you hear. Don't believe everything that you read unless you know that it is a credible source. So when we look at the office of president and the office of vice president, it needs to be somebody that we feel that we can trust and who has the best interests of the people in mind. Y'all, it does not really matter about what the office is. My dad served in this county of Rockingham for over 20 years as a county commissioner. It did not matter to him when he sat behind that table what his political affiliation was. It only mattered to him what he needed to do or what he needed to vote on that would serve the best interests of the folks here in Rockingham County. So when we look at a president, when we look at a vice president, we want to believe that they have our interest in mind. Now, I'm sure all of you have heard on the TV, you've heard on the radio, you've seen in the newspaper, you've seen on Facebook, you've seen on TikTok, you've seen on Instagram, all of the other social media forms that are out here. You've seen people talk about all of the policies and issues that they plan to implement or take away. Don't you understand, or if you don't understand, you need to understand that there are rights and privileges at stake in this election. There are freedoms and liberties that might just be taken away if we put in the wrong folk in this election. We have people that are talking about the fact that they don't care that much for public schools. We got people that are talking about they don't think a woman has the right to choose what she does with her body. There are people who are talking about the fact that we don't need to have public education. We can just pay money and have all our kids to go to a private school or to charter schools. I came from a public school, and personally, I don't feel that I'm so bad. So I don't think that we need to have somebody that wants to take away the schools that exist now and just make everybody go to one type of institution. There are people that are talking about the fact that we don't need to be able to vote. I know that you've heard people say that we only have to vote this time and you won't ever have to vote again. Do y'all understand what that means? There are folks that are wanting to take away our right to vote. There are people and policies trying to be in place to suppress the vote. And that means, y'all, they are trying to make it harder for us to vote. Why would they care whether or not we have a whole lot of days to vote? Why would they care whether or not we have a lot of Saturdays to vote? Why would they care whether or not we have a lot of Sundays to vote? Voting is such an important thing. They ought to be making it easier for us to vote. But instead, now we got to present an ID because you got folks saying that dead people are voting. Really? They're making it harder for us to have to come and present information in order for us to be able to vote. If our vote did not matter, my brothers and sisters, if it did not really matter to this whole political process, why would they be trying so hard to take the vote away from our people? Since African Americans have been given the right to vote, they see that we do vote. And when we vote, it matters to the candidate that we are supporting. So it is most important for you to, one, get registered. Make sure that you register by October the 11th. But if you did not get an opportunity to do that, you still have a chance to do that. Thursday, October the 17th, begins the period of what we call early voting. That means that we have 4 places here within Rockingham County that you can show up, you can register to vote, you can pull out your ID, you can pull out your bill and get registered to vote, and then they will give you a ballot, and then you can mark the names of those folk you feel and have done your research that are going to give you the best that they can in terms of service. When you go vote, you can go early in the morning, you can go late in the evening. The polls will be open from 8 o'clock in the morning until 7:30 p.m. Now, I'm working with a political action committee, and what we're asking folk to do is to go vote early, because there are a lot of people who are staunch about going on election day. And that's okay long as you go vote. But what we are asking folk to do is to go early, because a lot of times it might be raining, it might even be cold. God might even send us some snow on election day. I don't know. But anything that might hinder our going on election day, we're telling folk that don't wait, go early. And we're doing a Souls to the Polls campaign on the 4th Sunday in October. So brothers and sisters, October the 27th, you can go to one of 4 places and cast your vote. You can go over to the Madison Library between the hours of 1 and 4. You can go over to the Eden Library between the same hours, 1 to 4. You can go over to the Board of Elections office, which is over on Cherokee Camp Road over in Wentworth. Or you can come to Zion Church, which is over off of Harrison Street and Piedmont Street between the hours of 1 and 4. That's a Sunday, and we're asking folk that once you get your shout on and you done praise God and done your hallelujah for the day, to get in your church van, get in that church bus, get in that car, get in that bicycle, get in your moped, load up, and let's go to the polls and vote. Go to the polls and vote. It is extremely important. I cannot stress enough. And there is another project that's out here that you need to know about. It's called Project 2025. Project 2025. Make sure you Google that. You're going to Google something, Google that. Look at what's contained in that document. I understand it's about 920 some pages that talks about all of the plan of action, that there's a group that's preparing to take away freedoms and liberties. but there's not a lot being said about it by a lot of people, because if we understand what it really means, then we'll turn our vote in another direction. So I need for you to make sure you do some research, understand what that means. Make sure that you don't wait until the last day to go vote, and then you don't have your credentials, and then you can't vote. If perchance you have committed a crime, my brothers and sisters, if you just only committed a misdemeanor, your rights are still intact. You can still vote. But if you have, by chance, committed a felony, you're not able to vote until you serve your time and you pay your fines to the court, to lawyers, or whoever you got to pay those fines to. And if you have questions about that, and if you have committed a felony, you just will need to ask the court system about that or your attorney. But don't let anybody tell you that once you've done all of that, that you're not able to vote. That is a lie. You can vote. You've just got to get your voting rights restored. And so again, it's not a lot of talk about that, because they know that there are those of us who have committed a felony, and we've done our time, we've paid our fines, and we can register to vote. So I am pleading with you to tell all of your people, all your friends, your family, your enemies, those and even in the nursing homes, if they cannot get out to vote, make sure that you get them an application and they can have the ballots mailed to them. Now, there's some stipulations on that registration form that talks about the absentee ballot. I can just reach out to me. We can talk about that later. But don't leave any vote at the house. The nursing home folk, if they are able to vote, make sure that you get to them, to either get them to the polls in the car and they can vote inside the car. They have what's called curbside voting. Don't even have to get out of the car. Then you just roll up to the polling place or to the precinct, and somebody will come out to you. You show them your credentials, and you can cast your vote. Or if they are not able to actually get into a vehicle, please make sure that you do what you need to do in order to get them mailed an absentee ballot. So we cannot afford for anybody to stay home. So once we voted for the president, once we voted for the vice president, then there are some other state offices that are on the ballot. We've got a state senate race that's on the ballot. There are folk here, even Rockingham County, that are running for a state senate seat. Make sure you do the research. Listen to what they are saying. And then if you can't believe what you're reading, they have telephone numbers, they have websites. Call them. Call their campaign managers. My friends and brothers and sisters, we need to do all the research that we can to make sure that we get to the nitty-gritty of what folk are telling us. I can't say it enough. I sound like a broken record. Don't believe everything that you hear. Don't believe everything that you read unless you know it is from a valid source. And then we have state offices, we have judges that are running. We also got some local races that are very important for us. We've got county commissioner races, we've got school board races, and they are by district. Now you can only vote for the school board person that's in your particular district. And so when you get your ballot, whatever precinct you're registered in will determine which school board candidate that you can vote for. Now, on this coming Monday, October the 7th, we've got just about 4 or 5 candidates that are going to participate in a virtual forum. Now, that flyer, I understand, will be coming out tomorrow, and I'll make sure that the folks here who are recording this get their hands on that so that they can share that with you. You don't have to leave your house. You can get the information that you need right from this virtual platform, this forum, which is going to be this coming Monday night, October the 7th at 7 o'clock p.m. And we're going to be working with North Carolina 100 in order to sponsor that particular forum. So you'll be able to get a little bit of information there. But I urge you to listen. I urge you to research. I urge you to talk to folks that you trust. I urge you to Google information, put it all together, and try to figure out what you need to do in order to make the best decisions that you can. It does not make sense, y'all, for folk to have died back in the day. Folks that were gunned down, folks that the dogs were after them, the fire hoses were sprinkling water on the people that were just trying to get us the right to vote. And it is a crying shame for us to say, well, that doesn't matter to me, or I don't care about voting, or my vote doesn't count, or they can do what they want. They do what they want to do. It doesn't matter to me. It does matter. And we cannot afford to have anybody at home just looking at the TV saying, well, I didn't vote today. Well, then if you don't vote that day, then I don't want to hear what you have to say. Because if you don't put any skin in the game, then you don't have the right to complain. You don't have the right to criticize whoever gets elected, because the vote that you don't cast could be the deciding vote for someone who could have won the race, that might have represented your interests more or better than maybe who won. So I'm just here tonight, y'all, just asking that we come together and do what we ought to do. There won't be another 2024 election. It's just like days of the week. When we are given one day, that's the only day that we are given, and the next day is not even promised to us. So the next race is not even promised to us. And anytime there is any kind of race on the scene, I don't care if it's for the dog catcher or for who gonna bring the milk to the house, go to the polls and vote. It is extremely important. It doesn't matter what you're voting for. It matters that you go and vote. And so I urge you, my brothers and my sisters, to take the time to go and vote. Now, we're also going to have a party at the polls on the last Saturday. The last day of early voting is that Saturday, November the 2nd. And so at the polls over at Zion, we're going to be out on the lawn just having a good time, excited about the fact that everybody has voted that we know of. And so come and join us. We're going to try to maybe grill some hot dogs, have a little something to drink to wet your whistle, and try to have a little music to stimulate you, and have an opportunity for you to just come out and fellowship and have a good time. So that's going to be at Zion on November the 2nd, which is the last day of early voting, from about 10 o'clock to about 2 or 3 o'clock. So come and join us. And so we'll be having an opportunity to call folk over the next couple of weeks. So you might get a phone call from me or somebody on my committee. You might get a text message from us encouraging you to vote. You might get an email from somebody saying that they want you to go out and vote, and we'll send you out the information. If you need a ride to the polls, we'll provide that for you. It won't cost you a dime. We want you to know that we'll do everything that we can in order to get you to the polls and to get you voted. I don't want the polls to close and your vote not be in the pot. That would be a crying shame for that to take place, November the 5th. We don't want the sun to set or 7:30 to come without your vote in the pot. And so, brothers and sisters, I just close this appeal by just saying that it is extremely important for you to participate in this 2024 election. I know there's even more information that probably should be said to you, but I've just tried to give you the highlights of what I feel might be what you need to be tingling in your ear. So anything that you have a question about, anything that maybe you're uncertain about, please feel free to reach out to me, and I'll be more than happy to find the answer if I don't know it, find the one who's got the information for you, or get whatever it is that you need. The most important thing that I can say to you tonight is that it is, without a doubt, the most important thing for you to do over the next few weeks is to make sure that you find your way to a polling site, whether it be Madison, Eden, Reedsville, or over in Wentworth, and make sure that you cast your vote for the candidate that you feel will best represent you. And before I end, let me clarify this. On election day, you must go to your specific precinct. Any other time that you vote, and it's early voting, you can vote in any of the precincts, and it does not matter where you're registered to vote. But if you wait until election day, and that's fine if you want to do that, just go vote. But you must go to your assigned precinct. And if you don't know what that is, there are links available that we can make sure we find out what your precinct is and make sure that you know where it is that you're supposed to go and vote. There are about 18 different precincts here in Rockingham County. And so I urge you, instead of trying to run around and find one of those, find one of these 4 that I talked to you about and go vote early. And then on election day, you can just sit back and smile and wait for the returns and know that you have participated in this process. I thank you guys for not only hearing, but I thank you for considering that, you know what, she said something to me tonight, and I am going to vote. That will be the best thing that you can tell me once I see you. Thank you for this opportunity, and I'll see you at the polls.